sorry for my nose. I was like, my allergies are really bad.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
just
Allergies. Yeah.
allergies.
For the listeners, she's got a piece of tissue in her nose because of allergies. She's claiming that's what everybody in LA says when they're doing a lot of blow. But I believe
Allergies.
you. I believe you. So, how are you, guys? This is the Hardway Pod. Welcome to the Hardway Pod, Quarantine Pod. Michelle, we've got Michelle here. She's a submission listener, so sent an email, told me like a little bit about her story. So I'm excited to hear it. Before we get into it, how are you doing in the quarantine?
I'm doing all right. It's been a little strange. I think everyone feels that. But I've been working, but I just stopped working, so now I'm feeling the quarantine.
Yeah, what, you stopped working because you got furloughed or laid off or something?
Yeah, I'm on furlough right now.
Oh boy. Well, that's a bummer, right? When we're
Yeah.
supposed to be getting let out soon. So they
Yeah.
just made you work through the whole quarantine and then they're like, just kidding, bye. That's
How are
fun.
you doing?
I'm good. I've been working this whole time too, but it's been stressful for, the anxiety and depression that normally exists in many of us that, is definitely exacerbated by this whole situation. So just
Yeah,
the day to
definitely.
day of, getting used to that and keeping things going as if they're normal when they're absolutely not has been tough for sure. But
Oh yeah.
other than that, I'm healthy. I'm doing okay. So that's all you can really ask for, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
true.
which Justin did you see post? Because you mentioned Justin, and I can only think of one Justin. Um,
Um, so it was the Justin with the long
oh,
hair.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
Justin Walker. Okay, from
Justin
the
Walker.
Writer Rights.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he was on the podcast with Travis, my boyfriend, who's also in the Writer Rights months ago before we went into straight up quarantine. So that makes more sense. So I was like, who is this Justin that she's talking about? Yeah. Very cool. So I guess we could just get into it because I'd love to hear your hard way lesson. You gave me a little bit of information, but maybe when you tell me, then I'm sure I'll have a story where because yours involves pot, and I'm sure I have a lot of stories where I made a mistake with that.
Yeah. So should I just jump right into the
Yeah,
story then? All
tell me
right.
the story.
All right. So let's go all the way back to high school days.
Okay.
So it's my junior year of high school, and 16 years old. Um, Not a complete fuck up, but kind of fucking up a lot during that year. And basically, it was the last week right before we went on winter break, and I was hanging out with some of my friends, and we're like, what'd be really cool is if on the day right before winter break we decided to take pot brownies to school,
Oh boy.
and what could possibly go wrong, right?
Right. Right.
So at the time, I would hang out with my brother and his friends a lot. And so one of his friends was like, oh, okay, well, I'm making these pot brownies or whatever. Didn't know the proportions at all. Like, it seems like there's different, like, it's either like not strong enough or it's way too fucking strong. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's tough with edibles in general. You're like, what am I getting into? They put milligrams on it. I'm like, I don't know what this means. Yeah,
Like, do I eat all of it or just like a little bit of it?
yeah.
And me, like, I'm used to smoking a lot, so my tolerance is maybe higher than some other people. But basically, I took three brownies to school. So one was for me, and then two were for my friends. And me, I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna, have a little bit here. I'll, keep it going all day long, right?
Yeah.
But one of my friends, is a guy. I probably won't say his name, but
Okay.
he decided he was going to eat the entire brownie at once.
Ooh,
Yeah,
risky. Living on the edge.
yeah, exactly. And like for me, I'm having a great day. We watched, Up in my math class, super random.
Oh my God, is that the one with the little old man and the balloons?
Yes.
Oh, oh. I already want to cry just thinking about it.
Yeah. And so I'm making it through the day, having a great day. And then during lunch, uh, this security security guard for the school calls me over. And it's not just like a really random thing that the security guard called me over, because I was part of this group. It was like the speech and debate team,
Uh-huh.
and the security guard was in charge of the team. So he had called me over, and I'm thinking, oh, he probably just wants to talk about, speech stuff, right? And
Right.
he's like, no, he's like, you need to tell me. Okay, let me go back. Sorry.
It's okay.
this is this is yeah. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like kind of worried, but at the same time, I'm like, it could be nothing, but it could be what the fuck is happening right now. So
Right.
I still had a little bit of the brownie left, and I just gave it to my friend. I'm like, hey, can you throw this away for me? Like acting like it's my lunch, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Bless her heart, so she threw it away for me supposedly. And so the security guard calls me over, and he's like, hey, you need to tell me what you gave so and so.
Uh,
And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, he's about to die. You seriously need to tell me what the fuck you gave to
Stop.
this person. So now I'm freaking out thinking, oh my God, my friend is about to die, you know?
Like, what do you mean he's about to die? First of all, liar. It's a weed brownie. You're not going to die off of it. But clearly, this guy must be panicking or something if he's
Right.
thinking he's going to die. Yeah.
So then I start freaking out, and then they escort me to the principal's office, and like they had school police there too. So it's like the principal's there, the security guard's there, the school police is there, and they basically like told me like, here's like your written statement. You need to tell us exactly what happened, And I'm freaking out, and mentally I probably shouldn't have written anything down
Yeah.
because
Yeah, but that's like for a 16-year-old, that's like, you're like, that's it. It's over. I
yeah.
have to cooperate, Yeah.
So apparently what had happened was my friend went to the school nurse. He was having a bad trip, and he told the school nurse, Michelle poisoned me.
Ah!
So
Oh my God, what a narc.
I know. So then I wrote the statement, which pretty much admitted that, yeah, I gave him a brownie. And so they arrested me on the spot.
Stop.
They arrested me on the spot and took me to the local police station, and like was like charging me in to the police station, but they wouldn't put me in a cell because they said, they're like, oh, you're a minor, we don't want to have liabilities. So
Yeah.
they just kept me like in handcuffs in somebody's office.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
yeah. And then I mean it just keeps going on and on. I can talk about this like for a
Yeah.
while,
No, I'd
but
like to hear. I mean, if there's more to it, keep going.
oh, I'll keep going then.
Yeah, yeah, definitely keep going because now you're in cuffs, but they can't really arrest you. But clearly, it was bad enough that you're in fucking jail right now still.
Yeah, so they started doing my fingerprints, and like I remember that it was either that day or the day before that I had like a cut on my finger from playing with a pen, the plastic part of a pen. So I had this big like gash in my finger, and so they're doing my fingerprints and they're spraying my hands with the alcohol, and I'm still like, ah.
Yeah.
And then like the freaking cops were like, so how'd you make the brownie? And I'm just
Oh,
crying because I'm thinking my friend's dying, and I'm like caught up right now in this moment, and the cops are just like pushing my buttons kind of.
that's so mean. It's like, I'm still a child. Can you like give me a fucking break here? Jesus.
It's traumatizing enough already.
Yeah, I know. And like, is he dead or not? Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had told me that they took him in paramedics or an ambulance, to the hospital because they thought that maybe he ingested something poisonous, but it was just
Yeah.
pot.
Yeah. It's like those cops that like took people's weed and then called the police on themselves, and they were like, we're dying, we're dead, we died. Did you ever hear that story? Like way
No.
back when? Yeah, it was like cops had like confiscated weed from people, and instead of just like putting it into evidence, they smoked it, and like him and his wife or whatever, and then he was like, I'm gonna die, and he sort of like ratted himself out
Oh
because like
shit.
people apparently freak out. Like people react to weed differently, and
Yeah.
you just think it's like, oh, I'll be a little high, but you don't know that you're gonna freak the fuck out and think you're
Yeah.
dying until you do, I guess.
Yeah. And smoking it and eating it is completely different. Like the person who had like the bad trip, he and I had smoked before and it was fine, you know.
Was this the friend that you gave it to throw it away, or was this the friend that took it initially with you?
No, the one that took it initially with
Okay, the
me.
one that was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to take the whole thing. Your
Yeah.
fault, buddy. Your
Yeah.
fault. Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, right? Don't ruin this for the rest of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I'm sitting there in the office handcuffed and they're like, "Well, can you give us your parents' information so they can come get you?" And I was already freaking out. I'm like, "Oh man, my parents don't even know I smoke." Like
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
so I actually had told the cops to call my stepdad because I thought maybe that would soften the blow instead of like my actual parents,
Yeah.
but it didn't make anything better. So I had told them to call my stepdad, and then when they're like, "Okay, so and you're ready to be, let go. Your parents are here to pick you up," and it was my dad, my biological dad, and I
Yeah.
remember looking at him and like thinking like, "Oh man, I fucked up so bad," and he knows I fucked up.
Yeah.
So yeah, what ended up happening was they expelled me from school. We had
Stop.
Yeah, so they expelled me from school, and that was a huge hassle because um like the way the semester fell was like the semester wasn't over till like end of January, and this happened in December. So I still
Hmm.
was supposed to take finals and then like the next semester starts, but since I had gotten kicked out, like they didn't want to give me credits for my last semester even though it was like almost complete but not quite. So my mom actually had to fight the school district to let me at least take my final so I could get credit for, those classes.
Oh my God.
And then they pretty much banned me from going to any public schools.
Oh my
So
God.
I
Well,
had
wait,
to
was that a public school or a private school that you're
that
going
was a
to?
that was a public school,
Oh
but
my
they
God.
wouldn't let me go to any other public school because of what had happened, I guess.
Well, like, that's so insane. Like, what school was this that it was like one strike, you're out, and now you don't get an education anymore? Like, what the fuck is that about? For some
So
weed?
I exactly, right? And then I had to go to continuation school, which is like independent study, so I would go once a week for that.
Oh my
But
God.
then the court started, happening, so they put me
Wait,
on probation.
so wait, the kid like pressed charges against you and stuff, or it was just like, not civil charges, it was criminal charges?
Oh, it was criminal charges.
Yeah.
So I was charged with a felony at
Oh my
16 years old.
Oh my God. What was the felony? What did they call it?
So they called it furnishing a controlled substance because technically I didn't have any money on me and I didn't have any of the pot brownie on me.
Yeah.
So it was furnishing a controlled substance.
That is absurd.
And at the time, weed was still like kind of illegal. So if I were an adult and this had happened, I would have been charged with 3 to 5 years.
Oh my God. What state was this in?
This is in California.
What? How the fuck is this that serious? I can't believe this happened over just like being like, you know what? Let's just take some pot brownies. And this guy does too much by his own accord. He knew what he was taking. Like,
Exactly.
holy shit. That's
So
that's bullshit. So do you have like a felony on your record still, or were you able to do some sort of like pretrial diversion or something?
so luckily, since I was a minor when it happened, I don't have anything on my record.
Okay.
But I mean, I still had to do all the probation stuff. So they had me drug test every month
Yeah.
where, your probation officer is literally watching you piss.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I've been through that for sure. Yeah.
And I had to go to drug classes, which was really weird because, here I am, like, I'm a fuck up, but I'm not like a huge fuck up. And I'm listening to all these other people who are like drug dealers and like
Yeah.
charged with violent crimes and stuff like that. And I'm just a little stoner
Oh my
teenager.
God. That is so fucked up. I can't believe no, yeah, I'm sure you had no idea going into this. You're like, this will be a fun day that won't ruin basically the rest of my high school career. Like, that is bananas. And I can't believe that's in California. Like,
I
I was
know.
thinking it was going to be like, some crazy country that's like, when you go to China and you have drugs, like, that's it. broke
Yep.
down palace. You're stuck in this fucking like place for 30 years until you die or whatever. Oh my God.
Yeah, they definitely threw the book at me. I didn't expect any of it to happen. So, I mean, luckily, I have like pretty awesome parents. I mean, they were pissed, obviously, and I was actually really depressed when all of this was happening. Now I can laugh about it, but
Yeah.
at the time I was super depressed. It's like I just disappeared off the face of the earth, basically.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made me, I don't know. But my dad, since I only had to go to school technically once a week, like my dad would watch me the other days to make sure I wasn't getting into more trouble.
Yeah.
But he would like take me to go play tennis. He got me signed up for like a volleyball class at the local community college. And so at least it's like now I had like kind of a schedule of things I could do instead of just sit home and think about what I did.
Yeah.
And then yeah, my dad actually had found out that there was like this test you could take to get your GED,
Uh-huh.
because with the continuation school they would only let you take 4 classes at a time, and normal school you have like 6 or 7 classes. But
Yeah.
so technically if I had stayed in independent study I wouldn't graduate on time. It would take an extra year to get my diploma.
Right.
So instead I took this CHSPE, California High School Proficiency Exam, and I got my GED. And then I started community college when I was 17. So
Yeah, well, looks like I could imagine it would like if you even bothered trying to apply to a university, they'd be like, "Fuck you, you're a piece of shit because you gave somebody a weed brownie one time." Like
exactly.
that is so insane that you got into that much trouble for something that, like, I mean, to me seems so little and so like harmless.
Exactly.
Especially not to mention like now having everything be so legal, it's like, wow, okay, looking back, like how douchey of them to like ruin your life over it, you know?
Yeah, and nothing happened to him, you know.
Yeah, nobody asked him, well, then why'd you take it? Did she tell you it was like a regular brownie or what?
Right.
Like that's insane. Cause like I'm surprised, like even just going to a private school that you had that much, like forget it. Okay, one strike getting expelled from a school, like that's nuts in itself. But then to be denied to go to any other school over something that like kids will be kids, you know, kids smoke pot, kids
Yeah.
eat weed brownies and they get too high. Like, why is that so hard to understand? And then you get put in a situation where like with all these like actual like criminals. And it's like, what? Yeah. It's really crazy. Cause like I think about that and I'm like, when I was in high school, I went to a private Catholic high school and I was like a fuck up, quote unquote, you know, because I was always in detention, like because my shirt was untucked or for whatever little bullshit, because like we had very strict rules. And I remember, you know, just growing up, in Florida, we got like access to drugs way too early. And so we were partying on way harder shit way too early. And I remember one time like being at a party with this girl, Megan, and Megan was like BFFs with like the dean of discipline or whatever. And the dean of discipline, Mr. Mahan, hated me. And he was like looking for any excuse to expel me from school. So like one time, like Megan's like at this party with us and we're doing blow, like not even just weed, we're doing blow and we're like 17, right? And like, I guess the following week, she like was confiding in Dean Mahan and was like, felt bad that she partied. And so she decided to just rat us all out and say like, they gave me cocaine and I didn't want to do it, you know, which was bullshit. Like, it
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
yeah, it was like, no, you asked to party. You wanted to come to the party. You didn't have to be there. And so now I'm like sitting in, you know, I'm like sitting in my like classroom and like in my high school, they'd bring in like drug dogs and they'd like bring them into your classroom and like smell your stuff. And one time, like it was like right after that weekend, like they brought the drug dogs into my class, and like of course the dog sits next to me, which if they sit next to you, it means that that you have something, right? But I didn't have anything on me. But who's to say that like maybe something didn't still smell like something from the weekend,
Some
you know?
residue or
Yeah,
something.
some residue or whatever,
Yeah.
you know? So I go to like the principal's office. I'm immediately called to the principal's office and they start searching my stuff. They don't find anything. But because this girl had said, and he like trusted this girl that I did this thing, And he's like, you're trying to corrupt Megan, blah, blah,
Oh
blah.
my God.
Like, they were like, we didn't find anything on you now, but we know you did something. So you're going to get drug tested till you graduate, So I ended up like
What the
having to get,
fuck?
I ended up having to get drug tested by my school, despite not being caught with anything, just like based on hearsay. But I still got to go to school,
Yeah.
And that's like a Catholic, private, like very strict school where I was in trouble for like the dumbest shit all the time. So that's just insane, that you got in that much trouble over that.
Yeah.
But I can totally also relate to the like, how like it's kind of scary to be then put into like a probation situation with like actual criminals where you're like, but I'm just, I was just a kid, like having a good time, like, because when I was older and in college and I did get arrested for, having a bunch of bad shit, which I've talked about on earlier episodes. It was the first episode where I, ended up in the mental ward like a psycho.
Great
Because
episode.
thank you. Because I was like just talking too much shit, I was like, what do you mean I don't have rights, And like, I remember I had to go to, I was on probation for about a year and I had to go to see my probation officer, like you said, and get drug tested every month and like watching you pee and all that. But I also had to go to drug counseling once a week where you could also get random drug tests. And I remember there was this one guy in there that was like this older man, and he was probably like 65. And this guy probably like hadn't even smoked like weed in 20 years, but he happened to be at like a Christmas party and like hit the doobie. And then like by some weird, like unlucky thing, his company did like a random drug test for everybody the following, like, when they came back from the holidays, and he failed for weed. And so this poor guy is like, all I did was like hit the doobie. I'm 65 years old. And now I have to sit in this fucking drug class and get drug tested on probation every week because like now I'm a criminal. Because like on paper, like they're not looking at like, oh, is this a good kid? Did they, like, do they have like a history of this? Like, it's one thing if you're always just like trying to get people to do drugs, but it's like, no, not the case.
No.
And I can't even believe that was like California. So it was, you said it was you and two other people though.
Right.
Yeah. So what happened to the third person?
She had a great day.
Damn her.
No, her and I are still cool, but I remember seeing her like earlier in the day, and we were both like, the brownie had both just like hit us. So we were like, oh my God, this is so great. And then never like saw her after that.
Oh my God. And so like, how did you like, were you like hanging out? Like, were you still allowed to hang out with these friends? Were you like, or were the parents like, no, Michelle's bad, nobody speak to her?
So I was kind of grounded for a while. My mom actually made me call the guy that had ratted me out because she wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to try to sue me or something. Yeah. So I remember calling and I was crying and he's like, no, of course I wouldn't sue you. But him and I are not friends.
Yeah. Well, was he even like, sorry, I was so dramatic? Because like, apparently he went to the hospital, right? And they were like, you're fine. You just ate a weed brownie, you dumb shit.
Yeah. So I think they did take him to the hospital, but they didn't even like pump his stomach or anything like that. I think they realized he was just stoned.
Yeah. Which like just all goes to show, it's like, I feel like the punishment does not fit the crime in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like he should have apologized to you and been like, sorry, I know I took this on my own accord, but why, like, I didn't mean like anything to like try and help you. So he nor your other friend tried to like come in and help you, because you said your mom had to go in and like, and I remember having to do that in college, like when I got arrested, with the whole story from episode 1, because like that was like multiple felonies and like prescriptions, which are even worse, I guess, than other things. And I almost got expelled from college for it, and I had to like make a whole case to let them let me stay, and luckily it worked. And it was a lot of stuff based on character and saying like, look, this is not a pattern, this was just like a one-off. So is that what your mom did basically?
So my mom did that, and then I got like a few of like my teachers and my best friend's mom to write like character letters to just say like, oh yeah, this is out of her character, hoping that it would help, and I was even like the captain of the speech and debate team, so I thought maybe that would give me some like
Yeah.
leeway or something, but no, it wasn't.
Like, oh my God, like what a strict public school. And so
Yeah.
like, so your two friends were no help at all either, trying to,
I mean, they didn't get in trouble for anything, so I mean,
but they didn't come in and be like, hey, we did it too. Or, I mean, I guess why would they if they see what's
no.
happening to you? Yeah. But like, I mean, even the kid who like ratted you out could have been like, hey, I might have been being a little dramatic. Don't
Yeah.
ruin her life over this.
I mean, if he did try to say something like that, I never heard about it.
Oh my
So,
God. I don't like this
yeah,
guy.
I don't like him either. And it's kind of funny because now, like, people I met later in life, I found out that, like, they're friends with him. So I was like, oh, I wonder if I should tell you.
Yeah, look out for this guy. He might just throw you into the bus and let you get crushed, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that stupid written statement I had just like followed me around, and like, you know how you were talking about like, oh, I bet you woke up not thinking that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
A little irony was that I wore a Bob Marley t-shirt that day.
Oh my God.
so
Bad
my
move. Yeah.
so my mugshot is me wearing a Bob Marley shirt.
Oh my God. That is so fucking funny. I hope you have a copy of that somewhere, somehow. You probably don't.
I don't want to see that again.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're like, no, why did I do
Yeah.
this? Oh my God. That's bananas. I can't believe that. And like, I mean, how long was your life affected by this? Obviously, like the whole, you know,
Um, Quite a while. I mean, I was only on probation for a year, but still, like, I'm I'm still paranoid to this day about certain things. Like, I won't take edibles that I supply other people with because I'm like, no, you go ahead.
yeah,
I know I'll be fine, but I don't want to be blamed for anything.
yeah. So you definitely learned like I'm not going to be the one to give you the stuff, especially if you, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cuz I've done edibles with other people, and it's like I'll see them having a panic attack, or like I had a friend who like passed out in a show, and I'm just like, "Ah."
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be careful about who you're giving stuff to. That's like one of the things that like I definitely learned early on too is like don't be like the first one to
To offer.
yeah, to give somebody the thing. It's like I think I talked about this on another episode where I had like convinced my friend to eat mushrooms for the first time, and then like we're in Amsterdam, and then she's like, I feel nauseous, and in my head I'm like, oh no, here she goes. She's gonna start freaking out, and like meanwhile my stomach hurts, so I'm like, but I'm gonna poop my pants. I'm not gonna. But since like I'm the mom of the situation and I created it, like you kind of have to like maintain your calm when they start like
Freaking
panicking.
out, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, how do you know until it's too late? And even then, it's just like, you know, you don't know how they were going to react. And like, luckily for me, I've never had a situation like yours where it was just like, oh, this like ruined your fucking high school career over something as little as a weed brownie.
Yep,
But it does teach you about your friends and who are or aren't as well.
right.
Yeah, like who the hell who acts like that? I think this guy must be such a baby too.
Oh
I
yeah,
hope he
definitely.
hears this.
I hope so too. But I won't say his name.
No. Yeah. Unlike him, who totally ratted you out.
Oh, and he said first and last name, so it wasn't even like.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And so this was years ago, obviously, at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this was actually my probation anniversary was last week, so it's been 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh my God. I can't believe that.
yeah,
I'm just still in shock that you got in that much trouble over
yeah.
something so little. And I'm also surprised that, well, because you didn't have like a bad trip with your edible. Because I was like, I'd probably like not even eat edibles again ever if that happened to me.
Well, I mean, I was having a good trip at first, but it, obviously changed quite a bit.
Yeah. And then,
Turned into a.
don't write anything down. Like,
Oh no.
yeah. Like, especially when you're thinking, like, you're like, oh, this is just a formality. This is something that's like not going to be that big of a deal. Like, I like, when I was in New York, I worked at this bar, and it was it was called Michael Jordan's, and it was in Grand Central. And the way you were kind of like trained at this place was to steal a little bit, like, because you didn't make enough money just on tips and it was a lot of tourists. So like they'd be like, oh yeah, if somebody like hands you cash for a beer and like the beer is $8, like then they give you $10 in cash, you just put it in the tip jar, you know? So like that's what everybody did. And other people had like way more complicated schemes, but I never did that because it was too complicated and scary. But I just remember one time, like I my friend came to the bar and like they were like really cracking down on making sure you rang things in right away because they thought people were stealing and they weren't
Which they
wrong.
were.
Yeah, which they were, you know. So like if you didn't ring something in right away, like they were kind of watching you. And like I just remember like a friend of mine coming to the bar and like giving him a beer, and I had intentions of ringing it in, but I just didn't yet because like I gave him the beer and then I was like, let's go, it's my like lunch break or whatever, and went next door to have like some food and a drink. And then by the time I came back, they had all this like paperwork prepared that they were like, hey, you never rang this drink in. You have to sign this paperwork that says, you know, and I didn't. So I just like that was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll sign this and say that I did that because it was like my first strike and whatever. So I'm thinking not a big deal, but then immediately got fired. And I was
Oh
like,
crap.
so me signing that was me getting fired. If I would have fucking known that, I would not have signed this paper. I would have been like, what do you mean? I
Yeah.
definitely was going to ring it in. What are you talking about? You know, like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, I'm still shook, dude. I'm shook by this. I'm shook. I'm glad it was 10 years ago and I'm glad you're
Oh,
okay.
thank
So,
God.
so you ended up going to community college. You ended up graduating from college. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to community college, transferred to a university eventually, and then graduated last year. So
Oh, that's awesome. Congrats. And did you
got
have
my
to,
shit together.
did you have to talk about any of this like before,
So
like,
I actually like, especially in the workplace, I never would tell anyone that this had happened. But like during school, like I told a few people. I would lie about my age because if I was 17, I wouldn't want people to think, oh, she's 17. So I would say I was 18. But ah, not a big deal. But then when I was in university, I took this like psychology class. It was called Family Stress and Coping. And so you had to like identify it like a critical moment in your life and like really break it down. So I picked this one, and
oh yeah.
my instructor was like, wow.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely a great like story to go through. But were they like, wow, like I can't believe you did that? Or were they like, wow, I can't believe that happened to you because it doesn't seem that bad? Because that's what I think. I'm like, it doesn't seem like you deserved everything that you
Probably
got.
probably both, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, I'm already in the school, bitches. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
It's too late. Yeah. Oh my God.
No, but and something also that's pretty funny is that eventually I found out that my dad, he went to the same high school that I did,
Mhm.
and his junior year when he was going to that school, he also got kicked out of school for pot.
Ah! Taking in dad's footsteps.
It was supposed to happen.
Yeah, right. So, well, like, what was his thing like? Did they just find pot on him, or what? Like, what was his
I think
version?
he got caught for like a joint or something, but
What
but
is
the same day before winter break, his junior year, he got kicked out. It's like
that's crazy. Like, I don't want to say serendipitous because that sounds like good. Like, whatever it is, like, what a weird, bad coincidence, you know? Um,
it's his legacy.
oh my God. But like, what is this fucking school that they're this strict about pot? Like, that's crazy. Especially in California being like one of the first states to be like, it's cool. Everybody smokes
Mhm.
weed now, no big deal. Oh my
Well,
God.
that would be a sure high school in Montebello, California.
Fuck that place. You guys have your priorities all fucked up, you know? Captain of the speech and debate team gets kicked out for dishing out weed brownies. Was there a nice little article about you in the school paper too?
I wish, but no.
You're right. Oh my God. Well, that's an amazing story. Is there anything else that you want to say that you learned or you're telling people about before we like wrap our thing up here? That
I think it just helped me learn to stop fucking up so badly and to really get my stuff together. I learned a lot about like the court systems and what probation was, because I didn't even know what most of that was until I got in trouble.
Yeah.
So
Well, were you like fucking up in other ways before that, and this was kind of like the pinnacle, or what?
I was fucking up before too, and it's like I would like get high at school and stuff like that, take drugs at school.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the teachers and my family were just oblivious. Like they wouldn't even notice.
Yeah. Because
Um,
you had good grades and shit? Is that why?
okay, not like the best, but not the worst.
Yeah. Like I was
but
medium. Yeah.
but after that, like, I had to get clean and, all that. But if I didn't fuck up that way, I think I would have probably done something just as stupid later. So,
Yeah. You might have done like worse stuff and like the gateway drug thing.
oh yeah. Well, I was already at that point, but
All right.
at
That's
least it
fair.
wasn't getting in trouble for that.
Oh yeah, because you would have been in way more trouble if they're like she was passing out heroin or LSD to like all the rest of the kids. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Well, that's yeah. No, sometimes I always think it's good if you kind of like make those mistakes at an earlier age when there's a lot more time to come back from it, rather than people that like I know that were very I don't know what is it like when you're in the bubble or you're kind of like sheltered, and
And
then
then
when
they
you
all spring out later in life.
exactly. And then it's like it's too much and they don't know how to handle it. And then they just immediately ruin their lives because they didn't build a baseline of like being a fuck up growing up. And like, and maybe
Why
I
didn't you
just
get
say,
it out of the way earlier?
yeah, exactly. And like maybe I say that because I did get it out of the way earlier, but like maybe I would have been, a lot smarter. Like if I didn't ruin my brain cells at that age, who the hell knows? We'll never know, really.
No,
Yeah.
but that's how you learn the hard way.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I mean, I'm so glad you reached out and that you've been liking the podcast, and what a crazy ass story. But I'm really glad. I'm really glad that you're okay, and we don't like that guy whose name you didn't say. We're gonna go ahead and throw that out there. But yeah, keep listening, if you will. Tell people about it. And is there anything you want to like promote to anything? I always ask people, if you're not an entertainer, then people are like, shut up, Jessica, no, I don't want to tell anybody who I am, but just in case.
No, I don't really have anything to promote, but I'll definitely, promote your show. I kind of told you that I've been listening to your podcast at work. So I got
Yeah.
my coworker into it, and it's just kind of funny because like sometimes like you guys are talking about things that I probably shouldn't be listening to at
Yeah,
work.
you're just
Like that.
playing it on the speakers.
Well, I have it playing on my phone. So like I
Oh, okay.
remember once it was like one of your guests was like, "I have a vagina," and he's like screaming it out. And
Yeah.
like I'm like, let me just turn that down.
I think that was Fonto, because Fonto is a maniac and that's something that he would do for sure. But that's really cool though that you're listening at work and that hasn't got you fired. But don't like, but if you end up with another episode idea about like don't listen to the Hardaway Pod at work, then bring your ass back on here and we can talk about what happened to you.
All
Well,
right,
let's
sounds
hope
good.
not. But yeah, it was great meeting you, and thanks for the story. And guys, I'll see you next week.